What we'll learn: when to send your FPS, early reporting if you are doing any early reporting, late reporting if there is any delay, completing and sending FPS. So what all details are important, we'll see that. After you have sent your FPS, what all action you have to do. Reporting extra information in FPS. There is correction of mistakes in the FPS. If you have made a mistake, how do you correct it? Now you remember what is FPS, full payment submission, which is sent to HMRC whenever you pay employees. Okay. So like if you're doing weekly payroll, so you have to send every week. If you're doing monthly payroll, you have to send every month. So whenever you pay your employees, if you're doing any off cycles uh, through additional run, then you have to send additional FPS. Okay. A full payment submission is a document that employers must submit to HMRC each time they pay their employees. It informs HMRC of the employees' details, pay, and deductions. A full payment submission provides information to HMRC to ensure that employers and employees are paying the correct amount of tax. Okay, so employers means employers are calculating from employee's salary, right? So that means that employers are calculating and paying the right amount of taxation. So employees in the UK must register with HMRC and submit payroll information online for each pay cycle. And FPS provides HMRC with information about employees' taxes and contribution, as well as keeping track of how much employer owes HMRC. All this is one of the main um, reason we have FPS. Okay, so that when employer is sending the details to HMRC, they are letting HMRC know that how much taxes and NICs and other deductions they have to pay to HMRC, right? So this way HMRC comes to know that how much they need to collect from this employer or some specific employer. Okay. Employers must send full payment submissions to HMRC using payroll software. Okay. This report contains payments and deductions made by the employer from employees' pay. Essential information in FPS. Personal information of each employee on your payroll will be included in FPS. Okay, like employee full name, address, national insurance number, and tax code. There will be date of birth also mentioned. Okay. And FPS will include each employee's salary as well as the net salary paid to them. Okay, the gross salary and the net salary and taxation will also be there. And FPS will detail how much income tax and national insurance are deducted from each employee's pay stub, as well as how much the employer owes HMRC in total. An FPS will also include information about whether or not an employee has joined the company. Sorry, whether or not a new employee has joined the company, that is for new hires, as well as whether or not a previous employee has left. Okay, so new joiners and leavers, we will provide information for them as well. Okay, so if there's a new employee, there will be a new row added with the joining date. If there is a leaver, then there will be last record with the termination date mentioned in the FPS. Date of sending FPS, make sure to send FPS on or before your employee's payday, even if the HMRC payments may be either quarterly or monthly. Okay, so if there is a provision for employers, okay, they can make the payments to HMRC on quarterly basis also. Okay, they can opt for that. For example, they're paying employees on monthly basis, but they want to pay taxes on quarterly basis to HMRC. They can do that. Okay, they can ask for that. So
So,
if they are paying taxes on quarterly basis, that doesn't mean they will send FPS on quarterly basis. They're paying employees on monthly basis. They have to send FPS on monthly basis. Okay. You must enter the regular date on which you pay your employees. So in FPS, it is important that you mention the correct pay date also. Okay, that if I'm making payment on 25th to employees, so 25th should be mentioned, regardless of whether you pay them earlier or later. Tax months in the UK run from the 6th to 5th of the month. You must log into HMRC and submit the FPS on or before your normal pay date, and then again on 12th of the following month, Okay, so this is not again. So I'll explain you what is this. You must pay the balance by 22nd of the month via HMRC online portal or by post. So if you remember, you'll submit by pay date, the FPS, then by 12th of next month,
Mm,
HMRC will report those figures in your system, sorry, online
mm,
account. Then you have a deadline to pay the amount by 22nd of each month. Okay. Early reporting. How early you can send FPS and is it recommended? So
mm.
before regular payday, an employer can send FPS. That is fine. You can send 1 day, 2 day before, or 3 days before also. It depends on you. The only thing is that you have to always submit once everything is finalized. Okay, otherwise, you'll need to send additional FPS later on. So it's better you wait. Do not hurry. Okay, so you wait till you finalize the payroll. So it is not recommended to report HMRC too early, as any changes in the information need to update in HMRC. Okay, so if you just finalize the payroll, okay, but and you have sent the FPS also. Now you realize there is some changes. There are some changes or additions. So you have to again run a payroll and again send an FPS later on as additional FPS. Okay, and multiple
So,
additional FPS will let HMRC know that you're making mistakes and again. So it's better you wait till the final pay date. Additional FPS, if you want to send, you can send by 19. If you want to
okay.
include in that same month. Okay, now let me explain you how. So now, for example, your pay date is 25th. Okay, for 25th November. So you have done your uh, payroll and you have paid on 25th to employees and you have sent the FPS as well. But while sending FPS, okay, you have made some error.
Mm,
Okay, you have not included few payroll correctly. So you have to rerun. Okay,
mm.
so you have to
Yeah,
rerun
I
few
think
employees after
you
25th. If you do after 19, then it will be in next month only. It's better. It will
mm,
reflect in next month. Okay, so
mm,
HMRC will consider only till 19th if you include the additional FPS. If you do
mm.
any submission, additional FPS submission after 19, then it will be added in next month FPS. Okay,
Yes.
understood? So reports for the new tax year cannot be sent before March. So if there is anything that you need to send for new tax year, okay, for example, there is a new year. See,
Mm,
it starts on 1st April. For example, you started on 1st April itself.
mm,
So you cannot send FPS before March. Okay, for example, for 1st April payroll, like first week is 1st April to 7th April. You have processed the payroll in March itself. For example, 25th March, but do
mm,
not send the FPS till you come into the April.
mm.
Okay. So reports for the new tax year cannot be sent before March. Okay. So it should be in the first payroll only. That is the start of the year. Okay. If you are registered employer but currently do not have any employees, you must still notify HMRC that no payment is due.
Mm,
Okay. Through EPS, not through FPS. EPS, you have to send late reporting. In case of late submission, you need to choose appropriate reason. It is important to inform HMRC the right reason. Okay, then only HMRC will decide if they want to waive off your penalty or late submission fee. Okay, so it is important for you to provide a reason. Now, how do you provide a reason? We'll see. There are some codes where which you need to select, like a category, NI category letter A B C D. There are some letters or reasons that you select when you send the FPS late. Okay. If you send a late FPS without a valid reason, you may receive the following penalties. Okay, so if you don't have a valid reason, like there are some reasons that you can select, out of which if HMRC finds this is not a valid reason, then they will charge penalty for the late submission. Okay, now valid reason could be, we'll see. These are the list of reasons. So these are the codes which is assigned in the report. So you can select A, B, C, D based on your reasoning. Okay. Now what it means? A means notional payment to expat by third party or overseas employer. Okay. So if you are making some payment to third party or overseas employer, okay, it may reach late. So it is a big payment because notional payment is a big payment that you have made. That is the reason your FPS is also delayed. Okay, so due to which you can select A as the reason. Now same goes with B, notional payment, employment related security. Okay, if this is the payment is on hold, or maybe it is delayed due to some security related issues. Okay, so this is, you can select B code. These are mainly when you have overseas and high payments. Okay, first one is for overseas payment, second one is for high payment. It could be within UK only. Okay, but it is a notional payment due to some security related matter. It has been delayed. The payment has been delayed. Notional payment other, if there is any other reason apart from these two for a higher amount, okay, you can select C. Then you can explain to HMRC separately also what is the other reason. Okay, that is possible. D code, you can use payment subject to class 1 NIC but P11D or P9D for tax. Okay, so this is for year end that you select. So in that case, if it is delayed, you can mention that this is related to class 1 NIC. Okay, this is not a regular pay. So HMRC will understand. Okay. Then E, micro employer using temporary on or before relaxation. Okay, so
Yeah.
micro employer using temporary relaxation. Impractical to report work done on the day. F code is normally used when it is impractical to report work done on the day. So you can relate it, what it says. For example, there are laborers or workers who are paid on daily basis, wages. Okay. So for example, you're paying them on 5th, sorry, 5 by 5 p.m. on daily basis. Okay. So it is impractical for you to report again every day on at 5 p.m. You will not be able to submit the FPS, right? So you can select this reason and submit on weekly basis the wages together. That is also fine. Okay. In that case, you can select this. Then G could be reasonable excuse. It could be anything which employer will need to explain. Like for example, I just give one or two example. One example could be you are you're facing some network issue or HMRC site issue. If you're submitting on the last day and you're facing any issues, that is the interface issue, your FPS is not going through, you receive a failed message due to any reason where it is not your mistake. In your software, it is not a mistake. This could be one example wherein you can explain it to HMRC. You can call right away and inform them on call, and then you can submit this reason also later on. So anything you face, you can call HMRC and inform them first. Okay, that is also possible. Then other reason could be if you're changing uh, your software. One of the reason it could be you're changing your software and you're due to testing phase, you're not able to submit the FPS. So at this time also it is a reasonable excuse. Okay, so that could be mentioned. There are all multiple reasons. There could be more reasons wherein you find it reasonable. Okay, because it is technical issue. It is not because you have delayed, but you are ready with the data. But the problem is because of some technical issue or some other issues. Okay. Then H could be correction to earlier submission. So now what will happen? You have submitted FPS on 25th. For example, pay date is 25th, or on time you have submitted. Now you're sending one more FPS, that is additional FPS on 1st of the next month with the correction. So now to let HMRC know that this is not the addition, this is not the late submission, this is
Late submission.
correction. This is the correction to earlier. So HMRC knows this is not a late, this is just a correction. Okay. So additional FPS whenever you send, you have to select H mainly. Okay. Okay. So now reasons behind late FPS reports. There could be some specific reasons behind the late submission. So we'll see that. Your employee does not provide you with a P45. Okay. So in that case, you might have delayed the payment. Okay, that is a payroll for the employee. Send report within 7 days of paying your employee. So new hires, okay, if this employee was not included in the normal payroll, then whenever you pay this employee, okay, it could be possible you have 1,000 employees. Okay, now you have received two new employees, but they have not given you P45. So what will happen? You'll not process them. Okay, uh, or else you can process them with 0T tax code. You remember I told you you can, if they do not
Yes.
submit P45, you can put them on 0T. So
Yes.
it is employer's decision also. You can take.
Mm,
Okay.
mm,
If employee says just give me 2 days, I'll provide you. So you can wait for 2 days. You can run separate payroll if you can afford that, so that employee is also not dissatisfied. Okay. So you
mm,
can run these two employees separately. So these employee will not be selected in the main payroll, right? So the main payroll is already submitted. So then you are sending additional FPS
mm,
for this too, right?
mm,
So that you can then you can submit for them separately. And how many days it should be? Within 7 days you have to submit. Like if you have paid on 29, so within 7 days you ensure that you're submitting their FPS. Okay. Then employee gets paid less than pound 123 per week. I'm not sure why this reason has been mentioned, because this is something I already always inform students that this is not something valid. Okay, so we can ignore this point. And employee has does not have only been with you for a week. Okay, now this could be one reason. For example, employee joined and worked only for a week. Okay, so you'll need to rework like a final adjustment, final settlement that we do in India. Okay, so this employee's payroll might be delayed. We'll run a off cycle payment for, or we'll put the employee salary on hold in the main cycle, and we'll pay the employee later on when we have all the final adjustment, like IT assets have been recovered and everything. Okay, so this could be also one of the reason when pay these employees, you have to submit within 7 days the FPS. Okay. Then the other situation could be your employee's payday falls on a non-banking day, such as a weekend or a bank holiday. So in this case, it could be
mm,
possible that you have made a mistake in um making a pay date. So you have by mistake done it on a, you have by mistake reported on a non-banking day. Okay. So your employee's payday falls on a non-banking day and we have not checked in advance and we have not changed it, such as a weekend or a bank holiday. On the following, so if this is the situation, then you have to do it on a next day, next working day. Okay, so there is a delay by one day at least. If you've already identified, so what you'll do, you'll pay that one day before. Okay, so in that case, you are safe. But if you have not done it, then you'll have to make the payments on the next day, right? The payment will be released on the next working day. On the following banking day, but enter the regular payment date in the payment date field and choose late reporting reason. Okay. Regular payment date means the regular payment date that you have mentioned, okay, in the pay date. You made an ad hoc payment outside of your regular payroll. Okay, that is out of cycle payment, such as when you are informed about a new starter or a missed overtime payment after you have sent your FPS. Payments made on a regular basis outside of your normal payroll are not considered ad hoc. Okay, so you make an ad hoc payment outside
mm,
of your regular payroll. Okay,
mm,
that is you have
mm,
completed the payroll, but
mm,
later on you found that there was one new hire which was missed. Okay,
mm.
so now what you'll do, you'll run a ad hoc cycle for this employee. So,
Oh.
such as when you are informed about a new starter or a missed overtime payment. It could be a
Mm,
new starter or, for example, a overtime payment was missed for one employee. An
mm.
employee wants it now only. After you
Okay.
have sent your FPS, you have identified these. Okay. Payments made on a regular basis outside of your normal payroll are not considered ad hoc. Okay,
Mm,
so payments made on regular basis outside of your normal payroll are not considered ad hoc.
mm,
So this will be considered in the next payroll. Okay, you remember I told you you can make the payment and do the
RPKs and
adjustment in next
penalties.
payroll. So in your next regular FPS or an additional FPS, it's up to the company. If they
Hmm.
want to make a out of cycle, they can send the additional FPS. Okay, if they just want to make the net payment and report it in the next FPS, sorry, next
Hmm.
month payroll, then it could be in the next regular FPS. They can include the amount. The other situation could be you pay an expense or benefit to your employee. This is always out of payroll, for which you must pay national insurance, but your income tax, but not income tax through payroll. Okay, this is determined by the benefit. So in that case, if you are reporting some FPS for the additional uh, expenses or benefit paid to the employee, then report 14 days. Within 14 days, you have to report the FPS. Okay, 14 days of the end of the tax month. You cannot calculate or report your employees' pay in advance because it is based on their work that day that we have seen that per day basis if someone is receiving wages such as harvest workers who are paid based on how much they pick. Okay, so calculation will be done on that day. So what you have to do whenever it is paid, you have to send the FPS within 7 days of paying your employee. So what you can do, as I said, 1 week payment you can accumulate and send it together. So it will be within 7 days, right?
Hmm.
Okay. There are some non-cash payment to employee, like benefit in kind. Okay, within 14 days of the end of the tax month, or like vouchers also. It can be vouchers also, like benefits only, similar to which we have discussed already. Within 14 days of the end of the tax month, it is the same deadline. If you see the here, okay, it is 14 days for expenses and benefits, and same is here also. Whenever you deduct tax and national insurance, if earlier. Not received your employer pay reference. Okay, this can be the reason when you are doing the first payroll, when you have registered with HMRC but still awaiting for the pay reference details. So until unless you receive pay reference, you cannot send the FPS. Why? So you have to mention the pay reference while submitting the FPS to HMRC. So you cannot submit FPS. Otherwise, your FPS will be recorded somewhere else by mistake, or it will be rejected. Okay, so here you can select this reason. Okay, and as soon as you have the pay reference number, that time you can send the FPS. You have that uh, uh, privilege for first payroll. Okay, yep. The other situation could be you're paying foreign tax on your employee's behalf, and the calculation of pay and national insurance contribution on their tax is taking longer than usual. Okay, so if you have employee on whom you're paying foreign taxes, it can take some more time. So if this is the
For
situation, foreign tax, which means if employee is working in another location and you're still paying them from your payroll, that is the UK payroll, and you have to consider some taxes, due to which the pay and national insurance contribution is taking longer because you have to calculate only one thing, or you have to see how you have to report it. Okay, so in this case, you can select the late reporting reason as soon as possible, and within 1 month of paying your employee, you have to send the FPS. Now viewing late FPS report in HMRC online account. If you send an FPS in the same tax month as you paid your employee, the report will be available in HMRC online account on 12th of the following tax month. Okay? When you submit it on time. Okay, like if your period is the 25th and you're submitting on the time and 25th you're submitting FPS. So this gives enough time for HMRC to report the details by 12th of following month. So now we'll jump on the topic completing and sending an FPS. So uh, we are, I'll present you in a PPT mode, but I'll let you know how you can imagine that you are using the Excel. Okay, whenever I'm sharing the points, I'll show it to you. So completing an FPS, enter your pay reference and accounts office reference in the software which you have received after registering as an employer with HMRC. So you'll have two numbers. One is pay reference number and accounts office number also. Accounts office reference. Okay, so that is based on the location.
Hmm.
Okay, accounts office reference number is only for the uh, company.
Hmm.
Like if they need to reach out to HMRC. Okay, so which office will be nearby? So based on their account office location, they will be given the office address. Okay, they can contact that office of HMRC also. Okay,
Hmm.
so that is the reason they have accounts office reference.
Hmm.
Okay, so whenever FPS is submitted, so there will be a pay reference and accounts office reference mentioned in the FPS. To complete the FPS, follow the HMRC guidance, including employer information. Employee information only include employees you have paid. So employer information, like we have seen, pay reference and accounts office reference. Then employee information, everything we have is about employee only. So there will be more details around employee. Then pay and deductions of the employee, national insurance information. Okay, so NIC number, this is important for an employee. Okay, so when we start, there will be fields. Okay, in Excel file, you can see when you download the FPS in Excel file, in the Excel format for reference, you'll see these fields also, like HMRC office number. The first part of your employer pay reference, 3 digits, okay, is the HMRC office number. So the pay reference will be first 3 digit, then there will be a slash, okay, and there will be 6 more digits. Okay, so first 3 digit is the HMRC office number. Okay, so
Hmm.
this is on the letter HMRC sent you when you registered as an employer. So it is part of pay reference. Complete pay reference number will include this. You can also find it on P6 or P9 coding notices.
Hmm.
The P6 and P9, do you remember? P9 is the form that you download to update tax codes of employee during the start of the year. When
Hmm.
you download the entire list at the start of the financial year, it is P9. When you download every month,
Hmm.
later stage, it is P6. So you can find this number on that report as well. Employer pay reference. Okay. The second part of your employer pay reference should be mentioned here. The letters and numbers after the slash. Okay. And the accounts office reference will be mentioned here in this field. Format is something similar like what is mentioned here. You'll get this information from HMRC after you have registered as an employer. This number also you'll get. Okay. It is if you're doing offline registration, then you'll get a booklet. Okay. It is available online if you pay electronically or via your payment booklet P30 VC if you do not. Okay, if you have registered offline, then you'll receive a booklet in which this number will be mentioned, which is called as P30 VC. This is the booklet that you will receive. Like we receive the documentation when we registered with some policy. So we receive some booklet, right? Like LIC or any kind of medical. So similarly, if you register with HMRC, you'll receive all the procedures and all the documentation from HMRC. And in the booklet P30 BC, you'll receive this number as well. Okay, then do you remember if you register offline, you'll receive accounts office reference number, but for pay reference, you'll need to follow online procedure only. Using the basic details, you'll need to register online to get the pay reference number for online registration. Okay, related tax year. So income tax year that is this report relates to. So you have to mention the year as well. Then national these fields start like these are this report where you will find the employee details. Okay, so you can imagine an Excel file like a gross to net file.
Hmm.
So field are the columns. Okay,
Hmm.
column heads like national insurance number is a column head. Then below there will be the national insurance number of all the employees one
Hmm.
by one. Okay, similarly title is a column, surname or family name is a column, forename or given name is a column. Okay, so it
Hmm.
will continue. So you imagine like that. National insurance number of the employees, you have to mention it here. So the employee, so their national insurance number, leave blank if you do not know it, but make sure you enter their address. Okay. What will be the situation when you don't know the NI number? Can you assume? NI number will be there after registration. NI number should, sorry, uh, after 16 years, you remember NI number should be there for the employees. Even if employee has a less income,
Okay,
NI
so
number will
then
be there for
he.
everyone. So that could be the situation. Okay. So other thing that could be that employee has not disclosed you. One situation could be employee has not registered for NI number or did not receive it. Okay, from HMRC. So they will say that give me some time, I'll register with HMRC and get back to you, like we do in India for PAN number. Okay. Other situation could be that employee has not given you the data. And what could be both situation is during new hires. Okay. Both of the situation will be during new hires only. Otherwise, you cannot continue payroll without NI number. Okay, 1 month or 2 month maximum is okay at the start of the employment. Later on, you have to run after employee that we need your NI number. Okay, like we do in India also, it is mandatory, right? So employee can like if employee is not submitting NI number at the start, it is fine. First month or 2 months, if employee is requesting more time, is fine. But what we have to do if NI number is not there, how HMRC will locate the employee? Okay, so that's the reason we have to ensure that at least address is mentioned for this employee. Okay, and how it helps HMRC? If HMRC has address and name, so HMRC can check their record if
Yes.
this employee has a NI number in their record, so they can give it to you. Okay, you remember that national
Yes,
insurance
sir.
report?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they can give it to you. Okay, and therefore you have to also ensure that postcode is there. Postcode should not be missing because postcode helps HMRC to locate the address easily. Okay. Then title of the employee, surname or family name, forename. Okay, this should be mentioned. Initials only needed if you do not know their full name or full forename. Okay, it is not mandatory. Date of birth, gender. Okay, address. These are important. Date of birth, gender. These are important details. Okay, address, like address. You don't need to submit every month for existing employees. I'll explain you why. Okay, so enter their address if they are a new employee. Okay, enter the address if they are a new employee. Okay, you do not know their national insurance number or the employee's address has changed. Okay, only in this case you have to fill the address. Okay, otherwise, if there is an existing employee, for example, you join the organization, so I'll send your address once to HMRC and HMRC will have your record. So I don't need to send it next month or every month. Okay, but if you have not given the NI number for 2 months, so 2 months I have to send your address to HMRC. Okay, understood? Then you're changing your address in future, then again I have to send your address to HMRC. UK postcode. So it is critical that you double check the postcode you enter for for your employee. If you enter an incorrect postcode, the employee's address may be changed on our systems. Okay, resulting in correspondence being sent to the wrong address. Okay, so correspondence, what could be the correspondence? One example I can give you is tax code change. Okay, so if there is a tax code change, HMRC will let employee also know about it, that your tax code will change, is changing, and they will send notification to employer as well. Okay, so similarly, there could be other notifications also. They will send it to employee. Okay, foreign country only enter the home country if they live outside the United Kingdom. Okay, Channel Island or Isle of Man, fill out the address field as well if there is a foreign country for the employee. So if an employee uh, is a foreigner, okay, so only enter their home country. Okay, then payroll ID. So the ID must be distinct for all the employees like we have in all the organization. If you re-employ someone within the same tax year, restart their year-to-date information from zero. Okay, or have an employee who works in more than one pay scheme use a different one. Okay, that is a different employee ID. Okay, if you reuse a previous payroll ID, you will create a duplicate record and incorrectly report payroll. Okay, mainly this is during the financial year, same financial year. Okay, but if you follow it for all of them, then it's fine, you can do it. Payroll ID change indicator, if someone's ID is changing due to any other reason, not because of rehire. Okay, in rehire you don't need to mention this. It is only when, for example, your employee is changing for any reason, then only will mention the payroll ID change indicator. Okay, so here, for example, uh, there are multiple entities in an organization, 5 entities are there. For one entity we are changing just the employee ID, we are just changing the sequence or numbers. Okay, so in that situation we have to fill this indicator. Now let's see how. Only set the payroll ID change indicator when reporting payroll ID changes. Okay, and ensure both the old and new payroll ID is entered. Okay, so in this field, that is the normal payroll ID, you'll mention the new ID. Okay, and you have to click on this payroll ID change indicator. Okay, that for this employee, this uh, the ID has been changed, so you have to put yes. Okay, you should not include the original start date. Do not put yes if you used a different payroll ID when you re-employed someone. Okay, during re-employment, do not put this yes. Okay, you should ensure that the year to date financial data accumulates from that on the previous submission. Okay, so why it is done? So if you put the old ID and new ID, okay, you have to ensure that the previous cumulative data, that is YTD figure, is captured properly. Otherwise, it will be incorrect, right? Because the employee is same, only the ID is changing. So that you have to ensure. Then in the old payroll ID for this employment, there will be a field where you have to mention the old ID. Here you can mention the old ID of the employee. And in the normal payroll ID, you can mention the new ID. Okay. Enter their old ID only if it has changed since your last FPS. Okay, if you are rehiring someone, do not mention, as I it is showing again and again. If you do not provide it and they have more than one job in your pay schemes, your pay bill may be incorrectly calculated. Okay, now what about this multiple jobs? Okay, so as I told you, employee can um, work in two jobs in a organization, so they can have two employee IDs as well. Okay, for example, they are working in two entities, they play two roles, one of director and one of a like some senior leader. Okay, so they are getting paid for director also for 4 hours, for example, and for 4 hours they are working on another role, so they will have two employee IDs. Okay, in that case, understood. Now irregular payment pattern indicator. Okay, yesterday we were discussing about it. Irregular payment pattern indicator is ticked when you are not paying normal salary to employee every month. Okay, it could be some differences, or you are not paying this employee for a longer period. Like if employee is on a long-term sickness, normally we have this situation is common. Okay, so only select yes if the employee is not paid on a regular basis. For example, if they are a casual employee or on long-term sick leave. Casual employee means like you are paying, like just for example that I gave yesterday, you're not paying them regularly, okay, based on commission or maybe based on yearly incentives you are paying them. Some employees are also paid through shares in UK. They'll only receive shares. So there are different types of payment patterns. So in that case, you have to select this indicator as this is not a regular payment pattern employee. Okay. Otherwise, HMRC will think that you're paying this employee in 1 month and you're not paying this employee in next 2 months. Then again, after 2 months, you're paying this employee. Okay. So if you take this option, then HMRC will not ask you any question. They know that this is a irregular payment pattern employee. Okay. So whenever you pay them, you tax them. For annual employee, there is one more indicator I'll show you. Only for annual payment. Okay. If you're paying someone annually, there is one option that you have to tick. Or if you will not pay them for 3 months or more, okay, these are some examples. Taxable pay, this will be the total taxable pay for the employee in this period. Okay, the total pay to the employee that is taxable even if tax is not due. Okay, that is a different thing. If employee gets exemption, That is a different thing. But the taxable salary, we have to mention that this salary is taxable. In this period, including any benefits in kind which you have taxed via the payroll. Benefits in kind, if you have reported in payroll, then only it will be added here. Okay, like benefits in kind, for example, shares. Okay, you have given shares to employee in fidelity account or out of the payroll. You have given the shares to the employee, but for taxation purpose, you are recording in payroll. Okay, like shares example, I'll give you. So companies will give shares to directors. Okay,
mm,
they will say we give you two shares. Okay,
mm,
now director will say what about the taxation? Okay,
mm,
if you give me two shares, one share will go in paying taxes only. Okay,
mm,
34 35% I'll have to pay taxes. So company will say okay, let's pay, will pay you three shares. One
mm,
share you use for taxation purpose, two shares you'll receive the net. Okay, so this way companies do it.
mm,
Okay, so what they do, they give one extra share so that employee doesn't feel that pain of taxation. Okay, similarly for car benefit also they can do it, any other benefits also they can do it. They will say okay, we are giving you car. Okay, for compliance purpose, we have to show government that we are recording your taxes. Okay, on car we are giving taxes also. Sorry, we are deducting taxes also on the benefit that we are giving you. But now employee will say, what is the benefit to me then? You're giving me car, you're deducting taxation. So my net pay is decreasing. Okay, so what company can say? Okay, we'll give you extra amount that will be covered by tax. The tax is also covered by that. So if they are giving 2000 per month, no, sorry, if they are giving, if they are recording 300 per month, for example, okay, out of which 50 pounds is taxation.
mm,
So they will give 50 pounds extra as other cash benefit or something so that the taxation is covered. Then tax deducted or refunded. Okay, it will be mentioned like refunded. If there is a refund, it will be in minus. Okay? So that
mm,
tax will be for this period. Okay, for the month you're reporting this. Student loan repayment recovered. Any student loan deducted will be mentioned in this column for the employee for this period. Okay,
mm,
if there is postgraduate loan repayment, then it will be mentioned here. Okay, so plan type, it is mentioned in one or another column. Okay, so you don't need to mention the plan type here. And even HMRC has that record which
mm,
plan employee has. So that is there are multiple way where HMRC can get the information. Okay. Pay after statutory deduction, their net pay. Okay, this will be the net pay. NI contribution and deducting after taxes, NI contribution and student loan repayments. And if there is any other deduction, that also like court
mm,
order, I explain you, child maintenance. Okay, non-tax or national insurance contribution payments are not included.
mm,
Deductions from net pay. Okay, any deductions, any other deduction you have made, such as payment toward child maintenance. Okay, do not
mm,
include tax, national insurance contributions, and student loan repayment. So what happens?
mm,
These are deducted after
it,
deducting taxes. Okay, and
mm,
you know why, right? Because
mm,
these are, there should
and
be no tax benefit. Yeah. So this will, these kind of components amount it will be mentioned here. On strike, if employee is on strike, only select yes if you reduce your employee's pay due to a strike. Okay,
mm,
if you reduce the employee's salary, then only on strike. Okay? Then non-tax or national insurance contribution payment, any payment made to the employee that is not subject to pay tax or national insurance, okay, contributions, and is included with the salary payment for this period. It could be any, like, remember I told you one payment, redundancy payment of
yes.
30,000.
Mm,
Yeah, okay, so that amount will be mentioned here because that is non-taxable and non-NIable. Okay, okay. Then student loan plan type. You see this here. I told you plan type will be in another column. Here you will mention the plan type of the employee. So choose the type of student loan plan that your employee has. If you are unsure, have your employee check with student loan company. Otherwise, default to plan type 1 until you receive a student loan start notice. Okay. So in case employee has told you that I have student loan, but you're not sure which plan. So you can
mm,
use default plan 1 also. So anyways, when you submit the FPS, okay, And if it is incorrect, HMRC will let you know in return that change the plan type to 2. Like they will send you the notification, or 4. Okay, so that is fine. Then pension deductions. I told you there are two types of pensions. Okay, where in one you'll get tax benefit, and in other you cannot. You will have a different type of pension wherein you cannot get the tax benefit. So there will be two fields. Okay, one is employee pension contribution paid under net pay arrangements. Okay, so what is this? Pension contributions paid under net pay arrangements in this pay period. Okay, and the other one will be employee pension contribution not paid under a net pay arrangement. The contributions deducted from their pay after deducting tax and NI contribution during this period. So this is non-taxable. Okay, first one is taxable. Sorry, this is taxable, and first one is non-taxable. Sorry for that confusion. You can read it. Okay, contribution deducted from their pay after deducting tax and NI contribution during this period, which means it is taxable. Like the contributions, you do not give a tax benefit. Okay, the second one is taxable, because sorry, you do not get tax benefit. I mean, first one you get tax benefit wherein the taxable pay will be reduced, right, before tax and NI. Understood? Then same fields, only the this will be the YTD figure for both. So first one be employee pension contributions paid under net pay arrangements year to date figure. The second will be not paid under net pay arrangements year to date figure. Then items subject to class 1 national insurance only. Okay, so the total of amount where national insurance, like that we have taxable salary, similarly we have enable salary also. Okay, so it could be same, like taxable and enable salary could be same for most of the employees. There are some benefits which are not taxable, only NI will be deducted. So that could be possible. In that case, taxable and enable value will not match. Benefits this period taxed via payroll. Okay, so if you have reported any benefits, like we discussed about car allowance, we discussed about RSU, there is shares. Okay, if you have reported that benefits, so that only that benefits amount will be reflected here. Okay, also include this in taxable pay in this period. Okay, you remember it will be there in taxable pay also. Okay, and here separately it will show benefits
Yes.
taxed via payroll year to date. So same, if you have paid it earlier also. So for example, 3 months before also you have paid. So here that amount will be accumulated. Both the amounts will be reflected. Okay, like for example, shares are not paid every month. Okay, if they 3 months back you have given some shares value that was taxable. Okay, for example in April, and then now in October you have again given some shares and these are taxable. So both the amounts will be accumulated. If you're giving every month some benefit, then every month whatever is the YTD figure will be accumulated here. Okay, because benefits are normally not given every month. Okay, include information about national insurance in your FPS when you pay an employee 123 pounds more or more a week. Okay, like national insurance information, that is the category, and the
So,
sorry, NI salary, that is enable salary you'll mention. You only need to include this information for employees paid less if you're not required to report their earnings for tax purpose. For example, in case you're an overseas employer who is not required to pay taxes in the UK. So you only need to include this information for employees paid less, okay, if you are not required to report their earnings for tax purpose. So let's see more columns. National insurance category letter, as I said. Okay, so here you need to mention the category of the employee. Gross earnings for national insurance contributions in this period. Okay, gross earnings for national insurance. So enable salary is gross. The total pay subject to national insurance contributions this period. Typically all payments of pound 123 or more per week. Okay, including pay below this if you are not required to report it for tax purposes. Okay, like we have seen here this point. Gross earnings for national insurance contributions year to date. This will be the year to date value. Okay, like you are asking. Then this is the total value that we have seen. Now earnings at lower earning limit year to date. So here only Okay, for all employees, if they have more than LEL, so standard LEL amount will be mentioned here. Okay, understood? This period, the primary contributions, employees national insurance contributions were deducted from your employees pay. Enter zero if you do not pay any pay an employee during a pay period. Okay, you can mention zero. Earnings above LEL up to and including primary threshold. You see this? The same way, like we
Ah,
broke it down, it is mentioned. Then earnings above PT up to upper earning limit.
mm,
Okay. Again, this will be bifurcated. So in case someone's salary doesn't reach at this level, it will be zero for that employee in this field. Okay. Then employee contributions payable year to date.
mm,
Okay. We signed this period here. It was this period. Now it is year to date value of NI contributions of employee. Total of employers contributions payable in this pay period. Okay. Then total of employers contributions will be mentioned. This period you must pay secondary contributions. Okay. This is employer contribution in this pay period. Then the next column is year to date figure for employer contribution. Then this next column is scheme contracted out number. So there are some contracted out workplace pension schemes. Okay. So if you run a contracted out workplace pension scheme and your employees national insurance categories letter is D, E, I, K, L, N, O or V, only put this in. Okay. So there are some pension schemes which are contracted out. Okay. So in those situation only you have to mention that scheme number. Okay, scheme contracted out number for the employee. Okay, so your SCON can be found on your contracted out certificate or with your pension provider. Okay, that number you'll find it. So
so,
contracted out pension I can explain you separately what is contracted out pension.
mm,
Okay, so you have to like you should know if the
mm,
pension scheme for the employees is contracted out or
mm,
not contracted out. If it is contracted out, then you'll have the SCON number. Okay, that you need to mention for the employees only when your employees national insurance categories apart from A and BC. Okay, ABC, D, E,
mm,
I, K, L, N, O or V.
mm,
Okay, and then sending an FPS once you confirm the pay values are correct. As I said, you just cross check whatever information you can. Okay, and which you think it is important. You can keep a checklist also every month that you have to see this. If there are new hires, so what all details you have to check in FPS. If there are terminations, so what all you need to check in FPS. Okay, if there are some salary changes, like if there is a employee changes, so it is very important because you may not remember everything. Okay, so you
mm,
can keep a checklist what all details you need to check in FPS.
mm.
Okay, and it is generated by system only automatically, so you don't need to
So,
worry about. Then select the option send full payment submission. Okay, once you are done with it, you have to in your software you have to follow your instruction. Like each software has different what we say navigations. Okay,
mm,
so you should know where you find the FPS option. Okay, fill
mm,
employee type and period. Okay, and sending a combination of weekly and monthly FPS. So depending on your payroll, if you're doing weekly or monthly, you have to send the FPS accordingly. Okay.
mm.
Under who to select all. Okay, select submission type which can be either live or file only. Okay, you have to select live always. Go to
Okay.
next. File only is dummy run. Okay, that is I told you that you can generate a dummy file. It is
Mm,
only for file. So if you want to check the file, you can select file only and you'll get the extract. It will not go to HMRC. And whenever you select send FPS, the default option will be file only. Okay, so
mm,
that by mistake you do not send live. So
mm,
in softwares they do it purposely that whenever you select FPS, the
mm,
default option will be file only.
mm,
Okay, live you have to do it,
mm.
then only it will go. Okay, then click go to next and a screen of final confirmation will pop up for you. You can keep that print of that. You'll receive some receipt like kind of number also your so that if HMRC does not receive it and there is a concern, you can share it with HMRC that we have submitted and we received the confirmation. Okay, if there is a failure, you know you can resolve it and submit it later again. But if you have final confirmation, you keep it with you. Okay, for audit purpose as well, and for if there is some problem with HMRC later on. Okay, and then click on send. Now, after you have sent FPS, what steps you have to follow? After sending an FPS, the next text month starts on 6th. Okay, that is every month when you send the FPS. If you are following first to end of the month, so it will start on first. The next cycle starts on first. You can see your FPS account from 12th. Okay, do you remember what is this? Whatever you have sent in FPS, it will reflect in your account, HMRC online account by 12th. Okay, and we have seen one table yesterday. If you delay it, so it will. If you send it after 6 and between I think 11, you'll see it on 14th. Okay, similarly, it will reflect. Also, you can check tax and national insurance amount you owe in your HMRC online account. So by 12th, you can see in your HMRC online account, these amounts will reflect the total FPS amount that you have sent. You can claim a reduction by sending an employer payment summary by 19th of that month. Okay, so EPS has a deadline of 19th of next month. Okay, but you can send it along with FPS. That is fine. You can send it early. So why we send the EPS? To claim benefits, okay, to claim the amounts that we need to collect from HMRC. Okay, so that's the reason it is mentioned. You can claim a reduction. Reduction means through FPS you come to know how much you need to pay. Okay, and through EPS you come to know how much you need to collect. So at the end you can just pay the difference to HMRC. Okay, so if you do it early, if you want to reduce your payment through EPS, it's better you send it early. Okay, so by 5th to 5th also you can send. So you'll have enough time till 22nd you have to make the payment, right? So you'll have enough time, but maximum you can wait till 19th. Okay, if there is any balance, then pay by post. If you pay by post, as I said, you have to send it on 19th, like the demand draft or check payment. If you're paying online, then you can pay by 22nd. That is the last day. Then reporting extra information. Extra information means something new apart from regular inputs that you send every month. What could be the extra information? Like there is a new joiner. So that will be a new information you have to send to HMRC, right? If there is a leaver, okay, or if there is a leave taken by an employee means if you have a irregular payment, okay, so that is something extra information you send, right? So leaves taken which will be a longer period, so you have to put the employee on irregular payment if the employee is on sick leave and employee is not receiving consistent salary or full salary. So you have to report it that way. Okay. So additional information that you'll report is if any employee, if any new employee joins the company, then definitely one new row will be added in your FPS. Okay. Leaves taken by an employee. That could be like you have to send some extra information clicking on the irregular payment indicator. The last report of the tax year. If you're sending the last tax report, then this will be an additional information, that additional FPS you have to send. Okay. If you're paying someone a workplace pension scheme, okay, if you're paying someone a workplace pension, which means the employee has retired now, an employee will receive pensions now instead of salary. Okay. So you have to change the employee ID also for this employee. Yeah, that could be one situation I forgot to tell you. This could be situation where you will change the employee ID again. Certain changes in employee like becoming a director. Okay, so you, if employees becoming a director, then you have to report it like you have to click some indicators that we'll see. Okay, and then if employee is stop being director, then also you have to let HMRC know about it. Okay, that employee is becoming a normal employee now from director. Correction of mistakes in the FPS. If you made any mistake, what could be the mistakes that you do? Okay, you can find errors in the following sections in FPS which needs to be corrected. One is pay or deduction. Okay, you can make mistake in pay or deduction, so you came to know about it. Okay, then payment dates could be mentioned incorrectly. That could be possible. Start or leaving dates of your employee is mentioned incorrect. That is possible. Employee information is incorrect, like NIC number or date of birth or any kind of information, address details. Okay, it is incorrect. Report sent in advance. Okay, if you send FPS too early, okay, and you made mistakes, Okay, so that is also something wherein you have sent the incorrect report by mistake. Okay, national insurance category letters that could be wrong. That is also possible. Amounts in your employer payment summary. Why we are mentioning this report sent in advance? Because you're in hurry. Okay, so you can make a mistake while sending that report. Okay, so that is one of the, there could be multiple errors in that report. Okay, that is possible. For example, you have not reported uh, correct tax codes. You've missed to update the tax code and you've run the payroll by mistake. So most of them will be incorrect. Amounts in your employer payment summary. Amounts in your employer payment. So okay, sorry. This is something extra. Okay, so this is the report that you send in EPS. So I'm not sure why we mentioned in FPS. So amounts in your employer payment summary is reported in EPS only, not in FPS. Okay, so that uh, this is the correction for EPS, not for FPS. Okay, in EPS, what you send statutory payments. Okay, so that could be incorrect. Correction of wrong pay or deductions. If there is a mistake in the current tax year, update YTD figures in the next regular full payment submission. Okay, so if there is a mistake in the current tax year, update the YTD figures in the next regular FPS and submit it. Or else you can correct it by submitting another FPS with the correct year-to-date figures. Okay. If the wrong pay or deductions made in the previous year, then you can correct this by submitting a EYU. Now EYU has been stopped, or a further FPS with the correct year-to-date figures. Okay, so EYU is stopped, so additional FPS only you will need to send with the correct YTD figure if you have made a mistake in the previous year. For earlier tax years, and EYU must show the difference between the original reported figure and the correct figure. But EYU is stopped now. Okay, so you can ignore this. EYU can be used only for tax years when you were reporting online in real time. Correction of a pension, death benefit, or flexibility payment. Pension administrator can correct a flexibility payment or death benefit payment by using the following ways. Okay, choose the pension flexibility payment or pension death benefit payment indicator. Enter the difference between the original reported figure and correct figures in the pension drawdown taxable payment or pension drawdown non-taxable payment field or both. Okay, so this is when you are paying the pension amount to the employee. Okay, it could be due to death or it could be a flexible payment. So you have to report it accordingly. So enter the difference between the original reported figure if you have made a mistake and the corrected figures. Okay. So pensions drawdown taxable payment or pension drawdown non-taxable payment fields both you have to make the correction. Now what it could be? Okay, 25% that you take. Okay, it will be non-taxable. Okay, and above that whatever you take, it will be in taxable. That is, but by mistake you have reported 30% in non-taxable. Now you need to correct it, right? So you need to just mention the difference, like minus 5,000 will be in pension drawdown, not non-taxable, because you have by mistake, for example, you have reported 30,000. Okay, out of which only 25,000 is non-taxable. So now when you are correcting it, you'll mention minus 5,000 in non-taxable and 5,000 positive in taxable. Okay, understood? Correct the payment date in FPS. If you have mentioned incorrect payment date, okay, for example, it was 25th, but you have in FP, you have paid employees on 25th, but by mistake you have mentioned 26 in the FPS. You have to correct it. Okay, in your FPS, you should use the date you paid your employees. If you send an FPS with incorrect payment date, send another with the correct payment date. In late reporting reason, field type H will be the reason. Okay, correction to earlier submission because you have sent FPS already. Only the correction is required. So H is the option. You remember I told you whenever we do correction, mainly it will be H. Okay, H will be the correction code that we'll use. Then your corrected FPS by 19th of the text month. Whenever you hear the term text month, okay, following the text month, so it is always next month. Okay, So send your corrected FPS by 19th of the next month following the receipt of your original FPS. The correction will be applied to the correct month by HMRC. Correct an employee start or leaving date. If you have made a mistake in employee start or leaving date, if you enter the incorrect start date or leave date for an employee in your FPS, update your payroll records with correct date. Do not include the amendment in your next FPS because it may result in a duplicate record for the employee. Okay. Do you know? Do you understand what it means? What it means is, if you're sending additional FPS in correction, okay, so again do not send it next month any corrections. Okay, you don't need to
Yes.
report the higher date again. Only in this additional FPS you have to report the changes. Correct employees' personal information. If you made a mistake with your employees' personal information, correct your next FPS. Okay, personal information at times do not impact your payroll, so it is fine if you correct it next month. Okay, it is not recommended to send additional FPS for personal information correction. Okay, so updates to more than one of your employees' personal details such as their name, date of birth, or gender should not be reported in the same FPS. If you do, your payroll records may be duplicated. Okay, so updates to more than one of your employees personal details such as their name, date of birth, everything. If you need to change, it is recommended you do not do it together. All of them should not be reported in the same FPS. If you do, your payroll records may be duplicated and your pay bill may be incorrect. Okay, so
Okay.
if it is avoid doing multiple changes together for any employees. If your employees' information such as their address or surname changes, then that must be updated in HMRC payroll records. This is important. Address and surname, like due to marriage or any reason, surname may change. Okay, so these two details you have to ensure that this is at least correct. Address and surname. If you send FPS reports that need to be corrected in advance, for example, because an employee leaves, you should send. Okay, if you send FPS reports that need to be corrected in advance, which means you have sent a report earlier. Send another FPS for the text month in question, filling in all relevant fields and revising the year-to-date figures as needed. Okay. Correct any other FPS reports you sent ahead of the time that are impacted by the change. So if you have sent additional FPS already, again, so correct everything. Okay, you didn't. You need to send the correction in one file only. So send another FPS for the text month in question, filling in all relevant fields and revising the year-to-date figures as needed. Correct any other FPS reports you sent ahead of time. Correct an employee's national insurance, mainly using wrong category letter in the current year. Maybe you have reported incorrect category letter. Okay, and the calculation might be incorrect due to this. Okay, add the incorrectly used category letter. Okay, put zero at the incorrectly used category. Okay, let me see this. Put zero in all national insurance fields for this category letter except employees NIC's this payment. Okay, so all other fields, you remember that we have seen multiple NIC fields, so you have to put zero in all those fields. Only mention accept the employees NIC's this payment because you need to correct the amount and enter the amount repaid or recovered here. For example, only the adjustment that you have made. Okay, you are repaying an employee's overpayment of pound 300. Okay, so if you are repaying some amount, so you have to put that amount, how much you are repaying. Okay, enter the correct category letter. Okay, here it is the correct. That's what I was thinking. And year to date national insurance for this category letter. Okay, so YTD information always it should be correct. Okay, but the other information that is for NIC should be zero apart from the contribution amount and the YTD figure. For the remainder of the tax year, enter zero in all national insurance fields for the incorrect category letter. You do not need to do this if the category should have never been used. Okay, so if there was, You do not need to do this if the category should never have been used. An employee's category letters change during the tax year. In your next FPS, okay, an employee's category letter change during the tax year. Okay, and this was in the current tax year, change during the tax year. Okay, in between. In your next FPS, continue to report YTD data for the previous category. Fill in zero in all in this pay period fields for this category and use the employee NIC this payment field to adjust any national insurance underpayment or overpayment. Similar way. Enter the correct category letter and year-to-date information, year-to-date national insurance for this category letter. This ends the FPS topic.